the best routes on the field, best hands in the league by far. But AP, hopefully AP can come in, and if he gets 20 touches, that will definitely be a good thing for Arizona because AP is one of those running backs where he wears down the defense. Have to let him wear down the defense. And, New Orleans just wasn't a good fit for him in the first place. They already had Ingram there. They drafted another running back. And one thing that New Orleans likes to do is they like to throw the ball out of the backfield. And they're not committed to the run. They've never been committed to the run. So it didn't make sense when I first saw Adrian Peterson sign with New Orleans. I thought that was a bad signing because they never want to team out committed to a run. They want to throw the ball with Drew Brees. And I thought that, Arizona was actually a good fit for him. But, of course, that doesn't look like a good fit because they have David Johnson at the time. Now that he's hurt, now it's a perfect fit for him. The one thing that I still don't understand is why the Giants didn't make it AP. They need a running back terribly bad.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. I think I don't know what their thinking was with them being 0-5, especially. I don't get it. I think that should have been their first phone call, because if you can get the running game going, which we see so often, then the passing game will flourish. And I don't think they have a real quality running back that you can say, yeah, we can get this guy to rock for 20 to 25 touches and he'll be able to do what he has to do. So I still scratch my head on that one. New England. I'm surprised New England didn't. I know he went there to visit. I don't know if it was a money situation. I don't know exactly how it happened. But New England also, to me, that would have been an ideal spot for him to go and do crazy things in New England. I mean, anybody that comes through there becomes a superstar, or become their superstar status is rise if they come through the door. So that was another team I was a little wondering and curious about why they didn't bite.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I definitely think there was a lot of teams that he can go in and fit their scheme pretty well. I think you mentioned New England. I thought the perfect marriage for him would have been a New York Giants, just because, like I said, they don't have nothing back there. And now when you look at this team now, they don't even have a receiver. I mean, I think
they don't.
Is it Rod Lewis or something? I think it's like Rod Lewis or somebody is like their top target now on the team. He was like their fifth receiver. I mean, this is terrible. This is terrible.
They lost Odell Beckham Jr. Brandon Marshall is out for the rest of the year. They also lost Dwayne Harris, who's, mainly a punt returner type of guy. But if you lose two wide receivers, he's going to get some run. So it is bad right now. It is bad. If you are a Giants fan, it's bad right now. Everybody's been there. Every team has been to this point. But being here in Dallas, I'm okay with that.
But you know what? I don't. Yeah, since you're a Dallas fan, it doesn't hurt you as much, right? But I don't think I've ever seen. I can't remember a time where a team's top four receivers went down. Not only your starting two receivers, but then your backup receivers go down. That's just terrible luck, man. Who do Eli Manning throw to? I mean, he can't. I mean, he wouldn't throw the ball to himself anyway because he's slow as molasses. So it's like he can play receiver. But, who do he throw to?
Right. You can say he's slow literally and figuratively with that face he'd be having on the sideline. You're like, dude, pick your lip up off the ground or something. Yeah, so, shout out to Courtney Harden in the building of the Real Deal with Courtney Harden podcast. I believe his show just ended not too long ago. Go check that out. GoingFor2.com. Also, it is on Blog Talk Radio. He's a great friend of the show. Also, from this week, we got to talk about this Zeke news. You look at this whole saga has been up and down, up and down. Then I get a message basically saying that they're going to uphold the suspension, which is 6 games immediately. Now, it is a bye week, so granted, I think the Cowboys and probably Zeke mainly will try to figure out some kind of way to get it appealed again. Will it happen? I don't know. It's a very interesting case, and I don't think they have any evidence. I just think they're going off of hearsay and off of what somebody said. But at this point, I almost want to say just ride it out. Just take the suspension and almost be done with it, because he's not, as of now, he's not coming back till after Thanksgiving. We're going to need Zeke during the last remaining games of the season. You cannot have Zeke out in December. You can't have that happen. So I wanted to get your thoughts on it with the news coming down this week. You think he should just accept the 6 games or continue to fight it?
Man. So when the suspension first came down in the first place, I said that it would have been smart for Zeke to go ahead and ride the suspension then. And here's why. I think, as you stated, his usage is more important at the end of the season than at the beginning of the season. And so I would have, if I was him, if I was his lawyer, I would have told him, let's appeal the suspension to get less games, and we're going to ride this one out. And I think that would have worked better in his favor than actually trying to get the entire suspension removed. And just because, here's the thing with the NFL. They're suspending him on conduct detrimental. And we already know how the NFL has been dealing with this issue of domestic violence. Now, whether he was found guilty in the court of law with domestic violence or not, what's happening right now is the NFL are trying to protect their brand, protect the shield of the NFL. And because there is it's circumstantial. That's circumstantial information. But there's information. And the NFL is on the side on the caution of error, on the side of caution, to go ahead and punish him, because they're saying don't even put yourself in that situation at all. Don't even give anybody the opportunity to say, hey, it was possible that we had a domestic violence dispute. So I think that overall the NFL, regardless of how they drag this out, the NFL is going to win this one. Right? I mean, the NFL usually wins whenever they go after some situation like that. They usually win. Go ahead and just ride it out at this point. Get these 6 games over. I'm not sure who the schedule is right now, but I mean, you guys, the Dallas had a pretty meaty schedule at the beginning of the season. Right now, I think you guys are in second place in your division, right? In second place
behind the Eagles.
Behind the Eagles. And there's still chance. You still have time to catch you. Right? Go ahead and write it out right now. Fight at the end. You got those division games at the end of the season. Those are the games that are going to probably be the most important games in the season. Is those division games. Let's go ahead and just, take the 6. See if you can get reduced to 4 at the most. You can't get reduced to 4 at this point. Take the 6. Go ahead and be back for week 12. And knock those last 4 games out and get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I see the comment in the chat room. Also, shout out to Big L in the building. Big L always representing in the chat room. Appreciate you as always, Big L in the building. Courtney Harden, Grego, the resident Patriots fan in the building as well. But I appreciate Courtney Harden. He says, I agree, Zeke needs to swallow his pride and get this 6 games done, because if he continues to fight it, it's just going to delay the inevitable, being suspended. True. Shout out to Brian Hill in the chat room. Yeah, I think at this point, it's just going to drag it on. Now, I would love to, if I could pick anything, I would say let him serve it at the beginning of the season. And I'm when I say beginning of the season, I'm actually going to say next year. If we can ride it out right now, if it can be like that Tom Brady situation, because this team is not playing well right now, but I do think they still have a chance to make it to the playoffs if they get in it. Depending on how this defense and this secondary matures, There's anything can happen. So I think either he takes it now or let him take it next year. But there's no way possible to actually know if it's going to happen next year or if it's going to happen now, because the NFL is they're fighting this to the death. They're going to go down. This is like celebrity death match. They rather die than not fight this. Is almost what it seems like. Also, shout out to Mocha Bella in the chat room. In today's show, let me take a pause. Today's show is dedicated to the Hunter family. DJ Nunu, she does shows for the X Squad. Her husband, Tony, actually passed away, and he was laid to rest this week. So I'm dedicating the show to their family. Continue to lift them up in prayer. Like, if you have a moment, anytime during the day, if you think of the Hunter family, just say a quick prayer for them, because I believe they need it. So I wanted to definitely say that before we go any further. All right.
What's up?
Next up, Jemele Hill. I was going to say versus Jerry Jones, but it's really Jemele Hill versus everybody almost, versus ESPN, versus Trump, versus Jerry Jones. So it comes out, she gets suspended. Also, shout out to the governor, sports governor of Minnesota in the building, Vince Wright, just finished his show ringside. But I wanted to get your thoughts on Jemele Hill, and here's my thinking. The tweet was not, I repeat, it wasn't vulgar. It didn't have any cuss words in it. It was very straight. It was to the point, and what it said was truth. What she said on her tweet was truth. And people, she didn't say you have to do this. It wasn't aggressive. It was like, if you feel a certain type of way, boycott JJ's sponsors. I mean, and then also, the comments continue to go on, and people continue to put different sponsors in the link. And then also another thing she said, which I appreciate this, is that don't look to Dez or Dak or Zeke or whoever to kneel. We need to be the ones to show how we feel about what's going on in this situation. But your thoughts on Jemele Hill and her getting suspended?
Okay, so what is happening right now with Jemele Hill is she looks like she's about to become a casualty of this situation. And here's why. She's already been reprimanded for the first comment she made in regard to Donald Trump being a white supremacist. And so she's already put that target on her back. Not only by her employer, who supported the comments, who were like, hey, you know what, those aren't expressions of ESPN, those are her personal expressions, but we already talked to her about it and told her that, like, hey, she can't make comments like that because she still represents our organization. So they didn't punish her, but they did let people know, like, hey, okay, we are watching, and they also let her know we're watching too. So she already knows that she has a heat on her. The second round of comments that she made, although not as inflammatory, what she did do was almost kind of throw shade at her own company. And here's why. Because when you say, hey, go ahead and boycott, or she didn't say boycott, she said, hey, let the sponsors know that you don't accept what Jerry Jones is doing by not patronizing those sponsors, right? But guess who one of those sponsors is? ESPN, who uses the NFL and the rights so that they can make money. So essentially, you're telling people to boycott ESPN. And if that's the case, ESPN is definitely going to step in and say, no, you can't do that. So at that point, although she didn't exclusively or explicitly say ESPN, they are affected by those comments as well. As well as other organizations that ESPN is probably partnered with, So you have to look at that aspect and say, okay, you know what? I understood what you were saying, but it kind of crossed the line in that aspect politically. And so for that, I see why she got suspended. It's no different than, I believe was it Michelle Beadle who got suspended earlier? For her comments about ESPN and saying like, oh, it's becoming too political, and she think that they're taking the wrong direction. comment on a company's decisions or whatnot. There's nowhere in America that you can go to any